When a character does or says something that you don't expect, you have stumbled across a contrast and contradictions moment. When you have noticed a contrast and contradictions moment, you should stop and ask yourself the anchor question. Why is the character doing that? This moment may help foreshadow what may happen later in the story. For example, in the novel Esperanza Rising, Esperanza's attitude at the beginning of the story was very spoiled and judgmental to the poor. But during the end of the story, Esperanza was very nice and became the total opposite of what she was at the beginning. When you're reading and you notice something that reoccurs over and over again, this is called again and again. When you notice this, you should ask yourself, why does this keep showing up again and again? Or, how is this important to the story? This phrase, object, or situation will probably play a big part in the story's main conflict. For example, in the story Bud Not Buddy, Bud uses the term "here we go again" repeatedly throughout the story. When you're reading and the author interrupts the story, you have spotted a memory moment. When you spotted your memory moment, you should stop and ask yourself a big question. Why may this memory be important? Once you ask this question, this may lead to the theme, conflict, and foreshadow what may happen later in the story. For example, in the novel Esperanza Rising, Hortensia, Esperanza's maid, flashes back to when the Ortega's family mansion gets robbed.
When a character in the story realizes or figures out something that they've been conveying for a long time, this is called the aha moment. The aha moment may totally resolve the conflict. When you notice an aha moment, you may ask yourself, how will this change the story? The aha moment usually comes during the events leading up to the climax. For example, in the movie Frozen, Anna finds her long-gone sister Elsa in her ice castle.
Have you ever asked yourself a tough question? This also occurs in literature. Characters may ask themselves questions about the main conflict that they might not know the answers to. Later on, they may find the answer, but for most of the story, the question lingers. What do you think the question makes the character wonder about? For example, in the novel Esperanza Rising, Esperanza asks the question, why did Papa have to die? This question cannot be answered, but leaves your mind wondering for the answer throughout the next of the story. Have your elders tell you a life lesson that made you think twice about your actions? In a story where someone older and much wiser gives the character serious advice, you should stop and ask yourself, what's the life lesson, and how might this affect the character? The answer to this question may lead to the theme and moral of the story. In the novel Esperanza Rising, Abuelita, Esperanza's grandmother, tells multiple life lessons that help Esperanza become a more dynamic character. One life lesson Esperanza tells Isabel is, never be afraid to start over, which helps the readers understand the theme, perseverance.
Let's see what we learned today. Contrast and contradictions is when someone does something unexpected and asks why the character is doing that.
Words of the wiser is when an older person gives a younger character good advice. You would ask about the life lesson, how it could affect the character.
Memory moment is when the author interrupts the story when you're reading. You would ask about why the memory would be important.
Again and again is when the reader notices that something reoccurs over and over again. You would ask why this keeps showing up.
Aha moment is when the character realizes or figures out something. You would ask how it would change the story.
Tough questions is when a character asks themselves a really hard question that they don't know the answer to. The reader may ask what it makes the character wonder about.